I just kept having ideas come to me. I would get ambushed by them. They would come at odd moments, like when I should have been doing my homework. I would scribble them down on scraps of paper and write them out later and think, well, when I'm old and retired, I'll get published. But I was fortunate to get published sooner. Yeah, well, mostly since college, actually. I didn't really plan on being a writer, but while I was in college, just kept getting these great ideas. I met a publisher. I met a gentleman who published a series of books, and he was in a writer's group that I joined. He offered to publish one of my manuscripts. It was an interesting experience because he died the day we were going to print my first book. So I got a crash course in marketing and publishing in order to finish the project. I like all kinds. I've published a lot of fiction for kids, but I've also written several biographies, nonfiction, a novel. I have a novel coming out. Some can be written really quickly. I remember writing one story out in about 20 minutes. Others take a lot longer, months, years. Every story needs polishing and tweaking. Yeah, it just depends on the inspiration, how long it takes. Things that I've experienced, things that I've observed, things people say, I'm constantly writing down on scraps of paper, things that I've heard that I think are clever, and they give me ideas for all kinds of things. Yeah, hopefully the lame ones get tossed, and sometimes you don't always know right away, but I try to get everything down. I try to organize my ideas by story, so if they're related, I'll try to incorporate them all into one story. And then as I'm putting them in, or as I'm reading through, I see, oh, that's gotta go, that's gotta go. And rewriting is part of being a writer, and you have to do it dozens, scores of times before the story is ready. This last book that I did, I inherited the manuscript. It just wasn't complete. There wasn't enough character development. There were holes in the plot. Yeah, I had to kind of crawl inside their heads and pull out what they might be thinking or feeling and express that in their actions. Rather than saying, he thought this or she thought that, I have to express that in something that they do. My grandfather wrote it. He grew up in Northern California, ranching, and did a lot of hunting and fishing, and so he knew the area really well, and he wanted to write a story set in that land. He used great language. It's just that the manuscript wasn't quite whole yet. My first book was through a company called String of Beads, and then another company, Leatherwood Press, asked me to write a nonfiction story for children. And then I formed my own company, Premio Publishing. That they control the content, they control how much marketing gets done, and they keep most of the profits. Yes, and I think that's normal. You submit a manuscript, and if the publisher is interested, they usually wouldn't just print it offhand. They'd probably come back with some suggested ideas or changes. You go back and forth, working through until both are satisfied that it's an outstanding product. This one coming out this month will be my 14th. But with online titles, I have different language versions of a lot of my books, so all told I have about 40 titles online. I love them. I think there's advantages to both. There's something to having the physical book in your hand, having the experience of going through the pages, going back to a favorite page. But books don't always go everywhere easily, and digital books can go places where a physical book might not be easy. For illustrators, I get referrals from friends. I've joined a LinkedIn group, and I like to look at their portfolio and find an artist whose style I like or whose style fits the manuscript I have in mind. And then I approach them about writing and ask them if they're okay with receiving royalties and send them an agreement. Just finished this novel set in Western Nevada during the Silver Rush. It's quite an adventure. I'm really excited about it. I'm working on some biographies and some more children's books and Spanish and bilingual books. Absolutely. I tell people that they've got to write. They've got to dedicate time every day to writing. I spend time, usually the same time of day, every day, either researching my project or writing. That's the critical thing. People always think, oh, well, when I have extra time, I'll sit and write. But you have to make a time every day. Join a writer's group and rub shoulders with other professionals and make contacts.